Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we are playing Ultimate General Civil War, and we are returning to the Battle of Cold Harbor, the newest addition to the Ultimate General franchise. In this battle, we will be fighting June 1st of I guess we're on to June 2nd of 1864. Our initial fighting saw us fail to take the crossroads but hold our position on the first day of the battle. We also repulsed Union attacks on our right, bloodily sending them back, inflicting more than 12,000 casualties to less than 2,000 of our own. And on the left, we secured a portion of our left flank, although we did not completely drive the Federals from positions that would make it more advantageous for us to attack. Nonetheless, so far the battle's been going relatively well. This particular scenario could be difficult, though, because we are very thinly stretched. You can see here the Union positions are very close to ours here in the center, across this open ground. It's almost like World War I, where the trenches are creeping ever so close to us in a very World War One-sian type fashion. And you can see here as we move down the line, we've got a lot of entrenchments which don't have infantry in them, and we've got cavalry guarding our far right flank, which is a little bit dubious. You know, cavalry doesn't hold out against attacks. If we click on them here, you can see they can't hold these defensive works. So we're in a little bit of a rough spot, and not even all of our trenches that are potentially facing Union attackers are even manned right now. So we have some second line, line entrenchments that have troops in them. You can see if we go out here, we can see Wessiger is holding this defensive work here, this redoubt, which is in Wharton's rear. So I think I'm going to pull both Wessiger and Sanders' brigades, as well as Finnegan's brigades, out of their positions and move them slightly. So this trench line here, which links up closely with Scales and some cavalry here in the south, is unguarded. So I think we need to move some troops forward here. We've got some cavalry or some artillery in the rear, but we don't have any infantry. So there's a bit of a gap here between this cavalry regiment and Thomas's brigade. I think that's Thomas. And then we also have this brigade here on our far southern flank around this corn or around this farm is also open and exposed. So I think I'm going to pull Sanders and Finnegan out. I'm going to redeploy them south. And then I may even pull, I'm not sure if there's any artillery. It looks like all of our artillery redoubts are guarded. So I guess I'll leave the artillery up here. And Wessiger may stay where he is as kind of a mobile reserve to shift north or south as needed. So with that being said, let's go ahead and issue those orders. Sanders is going to move here. He's slightly larger, and I think this is a slightly more exposed position. So I'll go ahead and issue that order. We'll go ahead and take Finnegan and move him down here. So again, this opens up kind of a second line of our troops that are, if any of these guys get thrown out of their initial forward deployed positions, we could be in a little bit of trouble. We won't have any reserves immediately handy. But nonetheless, I am going to go ahead and do that. We do have a lot of cavalry. Some of them are dismounted, but they still don't have the ability to move into these fortifications. So I have dismounted some of these troopers down here in the south. My hope is they can give a little bit better account of themselves as dismounted soldiers. You can see here they're in very good cover along the southern flank. So these guys at least will delay the enemy severely. Now, by dismounting them, obviously they can't pull out as quickly. My hope is dismounted cavalry will give a better account of themselves to guard kind of our southern flank. And actually, maybe that's worth keeping in mind. Maybe Finnegan should stay up here as kind of as a reserve, so maybe just move him into this breastwork, and then he can quickly shift south if necessary, but without deploying him too far south. If our cavalry doesn't get pressed, we'll leave him a little bit further north to act as kind of a mobile reserve. So actually leave him where he is. We will move Sanders, though, because this is an entrenchment that is on the front line. If any enemy troops come through these woods, they'll run smack into this part of the line, and I don't want them, hitting a part of the line that has no troops in it. So that's what we'll do there. The rest of the line is relatively well guarded. Again, a lot of entrenchments in the rear, but we've got a pretty strong group of troops here in the center. The Union would have to advance across open ground to attack them. And our northern part of the line is much stronger with some reserve troops at hand as well. So with that being said, it says we've got 3 hours, 23 minutes for this particular engagement. We hold, I think these little flags represent the victory points. The Federals hold 2 victory points here. I don't see much chance of evicting them from their earthworks unless they absolutely destroy themselves on our own entrenchments, and we may not be strong enough in that case to push them back. So you can see here they are manning their defensive works. Again, I don't anticipate any opportunity where maybe we could capture the old Cold Harbor position or capture the Bellow Church area. This is the old Cold Harbor Crossroads. This is the Bellow Church. Again, I see no scenario where we're going to be able to take those positions. I am not Bobby Lee, but even Bobby Lee didn't try and launch an attack there on June 2nd. So we'll go ahead and get started. Grant got his namesake of being a butcher in more than just Cold Harbor. It was kind of the overland campaign as a whole. You saw the Wilderness, the Union lost more than 10,000 casualties, but rather than retreat like every other Union general before him, Grant led a flanking maneuver to try and continue to fight, and in an attempt to outflank Lee and destroy Lee. He failed, and Lee met him at Spotsylvania Courthouse, where for, I believe it was more than 2 weeks, there was fighting every single day, in which the Union launched bloody assault after bloody assault, nearly breaking Lee's army at the Muleshoe, and yet unsuccessful in its attempts. The Union then attempted to flank again and fought at North Anna River. At this point, the Union forces had lost more than 30,000 casualties in about a month, a little bit over a month. And had really nothing to show for it. The Confederates had lost far fewer. And then Cold Harbor, of course, where the Union lost another 12,000 plus to the Confederacies. I want to say 5,000 or so. So that by the time, Cold Harbor was done, I believe over about a 2-month stretch, Grant had lost some 60,000 men to Lee's some 20,000-ish, maybe closer to 30,000. So that's kind of where Grant got his nickname of being a butcher. Although it was always in an attempt to destroy Lee, to outflank Lee. Rarely did he launch bloody frontal attacks. Even the Wilderness, the Union corps were hitting Confederate forces on their flank or hitting unprepared Confederate corps. The Confederates were then counterattacking and driving the Union back by hitting the Union in the flank. But rarely were they massed frontal assaults, with the exception of Cold Harbor. I guess Spotsylvania did have some bloody frontal assaults as well, obviously. So that's a false statement by myself. So I guess Spotsylvania was probably the beginning of the butcher terminology. Indeed. You'll see as the Civil War goes on, especially in 1864, the forces went from rarely entrenching early in the war to digging in at every opportunity. By the time Cold Harbor rolled around, things really started to look like World War I, where you had trench lines. Now, a difference in that Cold Harbor troops are still digging more above ground than they were below ground, breastworks and the like. You really start to see that trench system come into more prevalence in terms of below ground entrenchments and earthen redoubts, more so in the Petersburg campaign. At least that's my understanding of it. So the Petersburg siege, which would come after this, and the game does not include. I believe the game, I mentioned the other day that I thought this was the final historical battle, but I think someone mentioned that Five Forks is going to be included, which Five Forks was part of the Petersburg campaign. I think that's where Grant caught Lee's, flank and kind of eventually broke, took the final railroad line. But there were a lot of engagements that all to me sound the same at Cold Harbor. So I'm not sure if that was one where Lee repulsed him or if that was one where Grant finally was able to, seize that final rail line and, in essence, doom Richmond. I want to say that was Five Forks. So we're going to play the remainder of this, depending on what time it's over. I've got to get up really early tomorrow, guys, so I may not stream more than just this battle. As you can see, it's super exciting with a lot of stuff happening. But if I do get done early, I may take a look at Steel Division, which just recently became available for pre-order on Steam. But if you pre-order, you actually get access to that World War II RTS's beta. So I may give that a go, depending on how early we finish here. Let's fast forward a bit. There's not really much happening. We'll pause as soon as we start seeing some blue forces move forward. But this is just really an artillery duel at the moment. So we'll shift some supply wagons here and there to make sure our artillery is getting the ammunition they need. Not all of our artillery is firing. That guy up here is. But so far, about an hour of time passed without any real result. Make sure our guns are all in good supply. These guys are almost out of ammo. Alright, these two guns are nearly out of ammo, so we'll head down there a bit. So the artillery is eating through our ammunition supplies, I suppose. But not much else is happening at the moment. An enthralling and exciting start. You can see here the Federals have lost about 12,000 casualties. The Confederates just over 3,000 thus far in the battle. The Confederates have lost 2 guns. The Americans, or Union, 3 guns. And that's for the entire battle, is my understanding, the way I read it. Alright, these guys are resupplying. We'll need to shift this wagon north again. This gun's kind of in the rear. Let's move him forward to support Hoke. You can see this gun's kind of just sitting back here. There's an objective here, but there's actually lines of infantry in front. Now, the main bloody assault happened on June 3rd, so I don't know if June 2nd is just going to end up being not much happening for the sake of historical accuracy, although that would be a little bit ironic if we just sit here and nothing at all happens. Be a little bit annoying to have to fast forward through a 3-hour scenario just in the name of in the vein of historical accuracy. Okay. Alright, so King's gun is going in. There's 10 guns, 10-pound ordnance rifles. Good long-range guns, but these Federal forces again are behind earthworks. I suppose we could launch an offensive against the Union, but they've got more men. Well, actually, we outnumber them on this map at the moment. Still, I'm not going to be advancing across open ground against these guys. Maybe I could break their center, but then I'd have a whole nother line to deal with. It's tempting to kind of probe at them, but I think we'll pass that opportunity up and not go for an aggressive assault. I wonder if that's what this scenario is giving the option to launch an aggressive assault. Which again, I think I'll pass on for the moment. Could scout ahead with my cavalry, but there's breastworks all along there. There's no exposed flank unless they're just empty breastworks that like we can really take advantage of. So an exciting next part to this battle. Now, even this guy, I thought maybe his flank was exposed, but there's more breastworks up here that would tear the flank of any advancing troops. So, again, this is very much World War I-ian, with the exception that we still have forests and trees to hide behind. Because artillery isn't as devastating as it becomes. But yeah, this pretty much looks like nothing's going to happen. So that's exciting, I suppose. Yeah. Well, we burned through all the supply on that ammo wagon. That hopefully doesn't carry over. Hopefully we get some replenishment there. That's one thing the Union is doing, is they're making us waste a lot of artillery ammo, which, you know, we're the Confederacy. We don't have profligate ammunition stores. Suppose we can send this guy up here. These guys are all pretty much full anyway. Make sure these guns will start the next battle stocked up and ready, because, again, June 3rd was the epic assault where, in, like, the span of 30 minutes, the Union lost more than 5,000 casualties. Confederates lost, like, 1,500. There's no automated fortify mechanic, so I can't tell troops to just dig in and, you know, fortify. Units fortify kind of based on where there historically were fortifications. Hancock's 2nd Corps is sighted. We're outnumbered, and it's very risky to attack. Observing the left flank. Meanwhile, all seems quiet along the Old Church Road, but we should be wary of an enemy attack. Yeah, we look really thin here. Because of our attack yesterday, the enemy has abandoned the trenches in those woods. We captured and reinforced them. Okay, good. Our left flank is situated along this section of Shady Grove Road. Burnside and Warren's forces do not seem confident in attacking our strong position. Maybe we can storm their own defenses and seize their HQ at Bethesda Church, claiming victory tonight. Let's see here. Alright, so we've got troops dug in here. Guns and supplies. It's almost like we're in range, despite being in breastworks. We're already in range of the enemy. Evans, the North Carolina sharpshooters. Yeah, so it looks like all of our troops here are in breastworks. We have one brigade under Lewis as kind of a reserve on the southern part of the line. We do have one breastwork we could oppose. There's a gap between our lines technically. So as you recall here, we actually stormed these federal positions. Looks like they withdrew from this position up here. And we took these fortifications. Bennett's brigade's flank may be a little bit in the air, but there's no option to take and hold these earthworks here, are there? No. So ideally, you put a brigade here and prevent them going between your forces, but these sharpshooters are kind of are almost refusing the flank, and hopefully would prevent any Allied movement there. Plus, there's no victory point back there, so why would they move there just for the sake of moving there? We will shift Lewis a little bit further north. Keep the rest of these guys as is. On this northern part of the battlefield, the Union have 35,000 troops. We only have 13,000. So we are heavily outnumbered up here. I think it would be madness to try and launch an attack. Let's see here. We are engaging in some desultory long-range rifle fire from our position of entrenchments. So we've secured the left flank. We have to hold both of these. Capture Bethesda Church is one objective. So far, we're meeting this victory condition, I suppose. Whatever the far left victory condition is. And just kind of long-range musketry fire at the moment. So Fry's outnumbered 2-1 with the brigade he's engaged with. I suppose he could drive Griffin's brigade from their position just by shooting at them from here. Well, do we think they're going to attack Patchwork? I mean, an artillery reserve would be nice, but, I mean, if I don't have artillery already in position at the start of the attack, then they're not going to do us much good. The only way putting together a concentrated battery of artillery makes sense and moving things around is if I know where they're going to attack. I think it would take too long to move the artillery further north. It's already 8 o'clock, so this is probably going to go into the night. I just don't think they're going to attack here. Maybe this is my knowledge of history hindsight, but I think the main attack will come tomorrow. And I'm not sure, you know, based on the way the scenarios have been treated so far, I don't think there's a day-to-day carryover on where your troops are positioned. I don't think that's how it works. So I think the main attack will happen tomorrow, June 3rd, as it did historically. So I'm just kind of fast-forwarding at the moment. You can see here Fry is engaged in long-range skirmishing. Hogue's artillery, likewise. Miller also. We'll see if they launch a late-night probing action. And again, that's kind of cool. So as it gets later at night, you can see here Fry can no longer see the individuals he was shooting at before. So these guys have fallen out of sight. And now it appears to just be an artillery duel. What was the flaw in Gettysburg? Patchwork. What flaw are you talking about? It sounds like the Union can still see us and shoot us. They must have longer range weapons than Fry. Okay. So yeah, he's getting sniped a bit. Cook is getting hit by some artillery. I would rather switch Cook and Fry out, frankly. Again, I don't know if that'll really carry over, but it'll also get Fry out from under the guns that are shooting at him. Sniping at him in the middle of the night. So the aftermath after Cold Harbor, the armies kind of stayed in position for a while, and then after Cold Harbor, historically, Grant launched a flanking maneuver across the James River, built the longest pontoon bridge, I believe, ever at the time, across the James River, outflanked and kind of caught Lee off guard, moved south of Richmond to attack the rail junction of Petersburg, which is basically the rail junction where most of Richmond's supplies flowed through, and had a great opportunity to march in and seize the city. His commanders on the field, Baldy, Smith, and to some extent Hancock, who deferred to Baldy because Baldy knew the ground, failed to aggressively attack. And P.G.T. Beauregard, the Confederate commander who always seemed to come up in a wily, successful battle anytime he had a small force, but seemed to shy away from doing very well when he had large forces under his command, was able to hold Petersburg long enough for Lee to arrive with reinforcements and initiate the siege of Petersburg, which, while successful in defending the city for 6 months, doomed the Confederacy to defeat and grinding away and losing its field army status as it became an army of entrenchment. Okay, so Battle of Cold Harbor, June 3rd, 1864. A lot of blue arrows moving toward our front. You can see here the Federals, 106,000 of them, are going to be launching a series of attacks against our front. We have some 57,000 troops. The Union Army was resting all day, and now at dawn mobilizes for a full attack. We must defend our lines at all fronts and not allow the enemy to pass through. Hopefully our breastworks will be strong enough to repel them. So this is the granddaddy of them all, folks. This is the big battle of Cold Harbor, the slaughter of Cold Harbor, as it happened historically. Brace yourselves, men. The Union infantry is preparing for an all-out attack. Hold your position at all costs. Okay, that's all I get? All right, let's pause here real quick and make sure we are all dug in. These guys, all of these positions here are held strongly. There is a gap here. So this is kind of what we were talking about before. Now we do have dismounted horsemen. You'd be better off forward a little bit to kind of guard our southern flank. So Hampton's forces are probably sufficient to guard our southern flank, although I don't feel comfortable having no troops here in this position. Does feel like a bit of a gap. I think in the short term, I'm going to move Scales forward here, as I had ordered before. And then I'm going to pull Finnegan from the north to replace Scales. So that way our line extends as far, not all the way south, because we've got these horsemen in the way, but at least there's no front line gaps. Sanders is in position. I think the rest of these empty trenches are okay. I don't think we have any exposed positions where there aren't troops facing the enemy. Some of this artillery I'd rather be further forward. I'd rather move this King's Battery over here. I'm also not confident that Breathitt is going to be terribly useful here unless they break through all of our cavalry. Which I suppose will keep him there. Just in that case, he'll act as kind of a speed bump on any federal breakthrough down there. And our supply wagons, I think we had one that was completely out. But it does look like all of our wagons have somewhat replenished. We're going to move these guys forward a bit. Okay, so this is the big one, guys. This is where the Union's going to launch their major attack against us. If we look at the map, we can see 59,000 Union soldiers are on this portion of the map. Again, they've lost about 11,000 from their original strength. We've lost less than well, actually almost 4,000 now. So we'll go ahead and play. Early morning hours, it's 4 a.m., so we'll see if the Federals charge us right away or if they wait a bit. They have some troops moving. You see Stannard's Brigade and Thompson's Artillery Battery are definitely moving here in the early morning hours. Claims it's a 2-hour scenario. You can see here they're moving. Granted, there's some skirmishers eating some of our fire here. I enjoyed Newt Gingrich's Gettysburg, the first of the trilogy. So Newt Gingrich, the congressman, wrote an alternative history. Basically, what if the South had won at Gettysburg, and kind of proposes a different sort of way the battle unfolded. So it's not just Gettysburg as we know it. And then he had 2 further follow-on books. That was kind of a guilty pleasure book. It wasn't, it's not a book that I would say, oh, this is this is realistic in any way. I'm going to try and swap Kite out with Haygood. You can see Haygood only has about 300 men here, so he's a little bit under strength in my book. I'm also going to move Anderson forward from the other side of this river, because I think the major federal attack, or a large federal attack, is going to come here, and this is pretty much our weakest point. I'm actually going to pull Greg out too, so I'm going to rush some reinforcements this direction. Let's pull Haygood out a bit. Let's put Kite in. You can see here, these are the main federal troops we see at this point. Alright folks, I'm going to jump in here, and that's going to do it for this episode. This was a little bit more of a standing pat episode, and not a ton going on, but we kind of set the stage for the remainder of the battle, and hopefully there was some interesting discussion in chat that you enjoyed. So I'm going to go ahead and end this episode here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.